All right, Bulls and Bears, we're back with another dose of economic reality. Let's go ahead and get into the financial economic news today. Please make sure you are subscribed before we get started here. The bankers, the politicians, the money printers, they're out there trying to convince everybody that the economy is strong. In the meantime, people, for the most part, are buried under record amounts of debt. We're talking about 70+% of the population living paycheck to paycheck. So what do they have to do? They have to keep the banks liquefied, keep the banks promise to get out of jail free card so the money keeps flowing so people could continue to go further into credit card debt. Now, a few reports ago, we talked about how 1 in 5 people were maxed out on their credit cards. But what we're seeing right now is banks are keeping these lines of credit opening, and not just that, they're still expanding the limits of credit. So these people that are maxed out, they're getting a little more wiggle room. Back for the financial crisis, banks really didn't do that because banks at that time weren't sure. We're talking about the great financial crisis, 2007, 8, 9, 10. Banks at that time were not sure they were going to get an endless, unlimited get out of jail free card. Now, of course, since then, it's more or less been promised, at least for the big mega banks, that they didn't have anything to worry about, loan out as much money as you want to. In fact, you don't even have to have any money in reserves to be able to loan out that money. That program was put in 2020. And it's still going on as of today. The 2020 emergency program is still in place as of today. Just that alone should be a clue and a hint on what's really happening with the economy, right? Well, let's get into some numbers today. The Dow Jones skyrocketed another 700 points to a new record high. Folks, we told you this was going to happen. There could be most of the people, you could have most of the people homeless, but the Dow Jones would still keep going up. That's how easy it is to create money and put it into the stock market, right? Dow Jones closed over 41,000. We're going to talk about gold and silver here in a minute here. Dow Jones 41,274. We've got gold coming in at 2,481, coming up on 2,500 an ounce. Wow. Silver $31, almost $31.50 there. 10-year bond yield still being suppressed. We've got a big buyer of debt out there. I think all of you at this point knows who that is. Who has the ability to buy endless amounts of debt, right? We know it. So they want to keep mortgage rates from going up higher, right? Think about it. If they really wanted home prices to come down, if they wanted things to become more affordable, they could have just raised rates to 10, 12%. Of course, they're not going to do that, right? They're between two walls, and one is inflationary, and the other one is even more dangerous to them anyway, which is deflationary, right? When inflation happens, it creates an illusion of a growing economy, right? When people can still borrow money, when people can still spend money, when banks are loaning out money, the economy looks like it's growing because there's economic activity. There's people buying stuff, right? Creates jobs, right? Every time a credit card is swiped, every time somebody goes and spends money, there's usually someone on the other side working for the company or entity that's selling the product, the good, or the service. But when deflation happens, it's usually because money is being cut off. Banks are tightening. It's harder to get a loan. It's harder to run your credit card up. You can't go further into debt because banks are tightening, and that's big time deflationary, but also it's really obvious that the economy's crashing at that point because job losses spike when people can't spend money. Confidence is lost. People start pulling back on their spending even more, and it creates a downward cycle, right? So, of course, they would rather inflate versus deflate, and I think that's the name of the game here. It's going to take something big to throw a monkey wrench in the gears of the lending facility here and all the money creation. Story here about a couple in Laguna Beach, California, paying $5,000 a month to live in a trailer. So apparently there's a trailer park within walking distance of the beach. Now the median rent, what I read, was $8,000, but the rents in this trailer park, because it's by the beach, over $5,000 a month on average. So I guess if you love the beach that much and you don't really need a big house, there you go. You're looking for beachfront property for a $5,000 a month payment. I live in San Diego, and I only went to the beach twice this year, and it's already mid-July. So to me, the beach not that big of a deal. But I guess if you really love the water, maybe you're a big surfer and can't afford the home there, you're gonna live in a trailer for $5,000 a month. Pretty interesting. We've got a statistic here to get caught up on, folks. We talk about this one. We track this one quite closely. and this is car repossessions, right? So I'll give you a few seconds to guess. Do you think the number of repossessions got worse and went higher? Or do you think it got better? You think less people are getting their car repossessed? I'll give you a few seconds to guess. Did you say get worse? You're right. I always say it's going to get worse. People say I'm fear-mongering, I'm doom and gloom, I'm negative, but folks, that's just what's happening. Car repossessions surge by 23% as Americans fall behind on payments. High interest rates and tight budgets. Another 23% surge. This was as of the first half of the year, so the June numbers are out. So we've got the data here, the data for the first 6 months, up 23% year over year. That's a pretty big uptick, folks. Pretty big uptick, right? If prices jumped up 23%, you would notice it. 23% is significant, right? It's almost a one-fourth increase, and so it's going to get worse. We talked a couple reports ago about the danger of repo drivers, the tow truck drivers, right? It's always been kind of dangerous. Nobody wants to get their car repossessed. There was always that threat of something happening, but now a lot of them are quitting, and they're having a hard time getting enough people to drive these tow trucks for repossessions because of the increase in danger. A lot of stories coming out about tow truck drivers that were ran over and all kinds of other stuff. Bad things happening to the tow truck drivers. So they need to pay a lot more to keep these tow truck drivers repossessing cars. They're going to need to pay 6 figures here for tow truck drivers here. Maybe some of them already make that, but you know, if you can't keep the help, if everybody's scared to do it, then you're going to have to really start paying more. Can the record companies, can the tow truck companies afford to pay that much? There's another statistic out there that points to something very interesting. Now, we always wonder how the banks are going to respond to this all-time high debt levels, 1 in 5 people being maxed out in the credit cards. Are they going to increase the credit limits and allow these people to go further into debt? Instead of having them maxed out, they're just going to increase the ceiling. We'll take a look at what happened. There's an 18% drop of people using credit cards to pay. So are the people that are maxed out cutting back on credit card usage because they have to? Could this be a sign that banks are not just going to keep increasing the credit ceilings, right? So far, we've seen a lot of loosening of the credit, not so much tightening. Only 1 in 5 banks are actually tightening right now. You go back to the financial crisis, it was over 60%, close to 70% of banks at one point were tightening. And so this could be a sign, folks. We're going to keep a close eye on this and see how that all plays out here. Here's a story about debt forgiveness. Now, debt forgiveness makes some people feel like we're in a segregated society where one group gets their debt forgiven, in this case the students, but other groups, they're left out to dry. What about the people with mortgages that they have struggle paying? Why don't they get their debt forgiven? And you can argue that a mortgage is even more important to forgive because that's a roof over somebody's head, right? Right? Student loans could be looked at as being less important because it's not a roof over your head. So it's kind of a thing that people are debating. You know, why can we get rid of debt over here and not over there? Why are these people more important than other people, right? So I'm not saying that debt forgiveness is the solution. I'm just saying that you know, it's very interesting how they pick and choose who gets the money and who gets stuck still holding the bag, so to speak, the debt bag. And you know, debt forgiveness, it's not the solution either, right? What happens when people get their debt forgiven? Well, they go out and spend more money because they don't have to make these payments anymore, and that makes what happen? Inflation goes up, prices go up. The more money people have to go out and spend, the more prices are going to go up. Now, if we had production to match the demand, or to match rather the amount of people purchasing things, then you really wouldn't see inflation, would you? Or if we had a sound currency that went up in value, then people wouldn't be so rushed to want to go out and spend their money, because if they hold it, you know it's going up in value. Imagine if something like Bitcoin was the currency where, for the most part, yes, there's lots of ups and downs and wild swings, but for the most part, it goes higher, right? And people then would not be in such a hurry to go out and spend it because they figure, okay, I'm going to hold my money. The money is going to increase in value. Imagine that. Imagine that money or currency that doesn't devalue over time. It actually increases in value. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That's why the ultimate solution to this is a metals-backed currency. Now, do I trust the countries out there that are saying they're going to go back to a metals-backed currency? Do I trust China? No. Do I trust Russia? No. That would be nice if they did that, but I don't trust them to do the right thing. I hope they do, right? But hopium can only get you so far, man. You've got to prepare for the central bank digital currency. That could be the nightmare that's really something that's coming at us here that's being disguised. Maybe they're saying that they're bringing out a metals-backed currency when in the end it's going to be a big rollout of the central bank digital currency. That's my fear. And that's why I continue to remain cautious, right? Nothing wrong with being optimistic, but I always say you be cautious at the same time, right? So what do you guys think about this? We're going to wrap this up. What do you think about the skyrocketing stock market? The gold coming up to 2,500 an ounce now. What do we have in store for this? The repossessions are up. Tow truck drivers are scared to repossess vehicles. People are on the edge, folks, the financial edge. And it's going to be a very interesting year. I think you're going to be shocked and surprised at what we're going to see coming up here in the last 5.5 months of the year. We're already halfway through July, so 5.5 months left in 2024. It's going to be a doozy, folks. What you saw last Saturday at the rally, get ready for some big or much bigger, I don't want to say fireworks, much bigger shocking news. Much more shocking news than that. What's it going to be? You let me know down in the comments. Something big going to come in and derail this entire economy. Is going to be World War III. It's going to be something on that scale, folks. Maybe the banks will be allowed to fail. Maybe the money printers will get a monkey wrench thrown in their system. All right, going to keep an eye on that for you. Everybody, keep stacking. As always, bye for now. Big love. Peace.